भने ल 19 रुपैयाँ काटिन्छ
अरे चालू गर्नु हामीले आएर एकदम मिल्यो नि त हैन
stopping of maybe, I don't want to say restricting, but maybe kind of, how would I describe?
हजारमै हाल्छ
वाइफाई हो क्या
Right, but man,
Trying to carve out holes.
tickled around the corner. This is going to be 4, I think, because the outfield's pretty quick. And it will run away to the rope. Just the wrong line from Lamachani, getting a bit greedy. So it'll be 8 runs from his second over. The score is 46 for 3. Nice stroke from Jones to get to double figures. Is it streamlining the word I'm looking for? I have no problem with the franchise leagues. I think Major League Cricket is integral to the growth of the game in the United States, for example. I think the Nepal Premier League coming for Nepal shortly. I think if they can get this Euro T20 Premier League off the ground in Ireland, Scotland, Netherlands, that'll be great for the game there. But it's almost the kind of the stuff outside of the one per country that, I don't know, maybe there needs to be a stricter sanctioning and moderation of from the national governing body and the global governing body in the ICC, because there are so many leagues. There's Masters leagues, there's 60 ball stuff popping up everywhere, and there's no real narrative around them. If there's one league in each region, your Caribbean Premier League for your West Indies, your SA20 for South Africa, your IPL for India, and then the international teams over and above that, that's a bit more understandable. The problem is there's been so much more else pop up, and then some of it we've seen some issues around in terms of the cleanliness of them. That would be, I suppose, but I've worked at the ICC. I know how difficult it is to, you have to have a set of sanctioning guidelines. You can't just say, oh, well, you can't play.
Right.
You can't restrict it completely. But cricket is unique. Is there any other sport that has so many leagues?
No, it doesn't feel that way. Even soccer, which again, very worldwide, football from other places in the world, it doesn't have, there's so many leagues, but they're all kind of running in parallel, right? You have,
it's one national league.
It's one national league, yeah. Exactly.
So yes, you've got La Liga, the
right.
Bundesliga, the Premier League.
Especially in the U.S., trying to find pockets to watch are very interesting because of the fact that the time zones are always so tricky to figure out. And I think the best way about it is I think it almost comes down to you have to have a team. When you first get into it, I think having one team would help. And then from there, oh, this player's cool. Where's he gone?
Yeah.
And then, okay, he's playing in this franchise league. Okay, I like these players on this franchise league that he's playing with. Okay, where do they play? And then you can almost branch out that way. I think it has to start almost from a single source. Otherwise, I can feel overwhelming just because, as you mentioned, there's men's, there's women's, there's this league and that league and ODI tests, T20s, that all happening at the same time.
And I don't think you can blame the players.
No.
You cannot blame the players one bit. They've got limited time periods in which they can earn money, particularly at this level, the associate level. Even though Scotland has some full-time contracts, not all of their players are full-time professionals. And certainly they're not earning anything like the kind of money that players from the very major test nations are earning, who could just say, actually, I don't need to play in the franchise leagues. I'll just rely upon my ECB or my Cricket Australia or my BCCI contract. So you cannot blame the players in any way, shape or form. But I think if I had a wish list, if they could restrict it to one league in each country, max, and maybe also cap the number of leagues that one player could play in, there might be a restraint to trade case against that. But, you know, if you could say, look, you're allowed playing your home league, of course, and then you're only allowed playing 2 or 3 others. Berrington goes to one of his trademark strokes, rocks back, hammers it for 4. That's a great stroke.
Feels as if the wind is almost upsetting the rhythm of Gulshan Jai. You saw him stumble up to the run-up just a delivery ago, and this one here, again, it's just a drag down. There's nothing in that delivery. On this surface, there's no reason to be that short. That's almost just too easy for someone of Barrington's class. Want to pitch it up, want to let it just move ever so slightly. You can see there's still green on the wicket. Gulshan Jai has been short throughout his time here in Grand Prairie, and it's continuing today.
Yeah, that's vintage Barrington, isn't it? Really battling, has no flow, gets a bad ball, smashes it away. Now the feet are starting to move, aren't they? Few little ominous signs for Nepal as the 50 comes up for Scotland. They're doing it tough in difficult batting conditions. So almost polar opposite from 2 days ago. when we saw Nepal get off to that flying start, 98 for none in less than 16 overs. So yeah, look, Zoe, I want to thank you for your question. I think it's a brilliant question.
Yes.
And my second wish list thing would be, but again, I understand why it isn't the case. I would love one portal. Can you imagine a Netflix or an Amazon Prime, whatever it is, for cricket?
Yeah.
Take my money.
Yeah,
I'll pay for
100%.
it. But give me access to everything wherever I am in the world. As Powdell fields well and nearly creates a chance that, was this going to be dismissed? Jones was almost ball watching, a little lazy. Berrington never said yes. I think Jermaine Lindo might have had a real decision on his hands. Could Powdell have affected the direct hit?
Yeah, this was very close. You can see Barrington here. He hits it. He actually does call yes, and then he's almost stranded Jones. And yeah, I think he's gone. And it's barely missed. Rohit Bottle had a stump and a half to aim at, had to get it out fast. And yeah, I think Barrington rightly called no late, realizing as Rohit Bottle there fielding, but I think he was off and Jones just reacted very quickly.
Yeah, it was kind of a yes-no. Ooh, that would have been a big moment, running out Jones, who's looked good thus far. He started very fluently. Yeah, can you imagine one portal, can you? Your NFL Game Pass equivalent.
Yeah, it's something, again, the Cricket Info app's the closest thing you have, but it's just for scorecards. You can't watch anything off that app. And the beauty of NFL Red Zone is such a big deal in the U.S. because you can sit at home on a Sunday with everything that's happening in one place. They'll show you every highlight of every game. They say 8 hours of uninterrupted coverage. It's a huge thing. To do that for cricket, you get 24 hours of unlimited coverage at that point.
I love multitasking. Some men abhor it. They hate it. They can only do one thing at once. I love multitasking.
I can tell, yeah.
You see it from me here, running the graphics and doing all the things in the background. I would love... I don't know enough about NFL to actually be a proper pundit on it, and I'll only ever commentate on cricket. This is a sport that I love. But I would love if there was a cricket red zone, or if I could guest host that NFL red zone. I would. Oh, what's happened over here? Oh, we got to go to Texas. We got to go to Tennessee. Oh, you won't believe what's happened in Philadelphia.
Well, let's go to Scott Hansen's Twitter handle and just spam @CricketBad. Just spam it on there. And
Scott
I think
Hansen, he does a great job. Doesn't
he's
he?
Phenomenal.
I saw an interview about how he does it. If you're unsure about what we're talking about here, so every single NFL game gets televised, of course it does, but they have a tradition in NFL that a lot of the games are played concurrently at the same time. On a Sunday in particular, there's a 1 p.m. Eastern time slot, and then there's usually anywhere between 8 and maybe even 12 games at that time. And then there's a slightly later slot that starts at around, I think it's about 4:15, 4:25 local time, of usually 3 or 4 games. And they have one guy in the chair in an amazing studio that's got access to all the feeds and I presume producers in his ear, and he anchors that 7-8 hours of coverage, and you get the best of everything. And the reason it's called red zone, that's when you're in the last 20 yards of an NFL, kind of the red zone's the scoring action, the scoring area, where the scores are most likely to come from. And sometimes they'll go dual screen, sometimes they'll go triple screen or triple box.
They'll do the quad box.
Yeah,
as
the
well,
quad box even, and he's overseeing it all. And I tell you, so I would love to do that for cricket. Imagine, I don't know, 5 associate games on at the same time. Stick me in anywhere. I'll do them all at once. Gets us to the end of the first session. Keep those messages coming in. We'll get more of those answers in that second session. You've got Andrew Leonard here with you alongside Aman Patel. Use that hashtag CWCL2 or message directly @CricketBadge, and we will keep those comments and questions as we've got an enthralling contest. It's really enjoyable. I think Nepal have the best of that first session, but Scotland won't be really displeased as they're building a 4th wicket partnership. It's 51 for 3. Well, welcome back after the drinks break. DJ hasn't quite got the memo yet that we're finished as Depender Sigari attacks one ferociously. We've seen a really entertaining first session. Nepal the happier of the two sides, Aman?
Yeah, you say so. 3 wickets they've picked up, and again, it's the way they've picked them up. It's the different bowlers in which they've done it. You've seen the seam be able to be really effective, whether it's Sampokami or Karan KC. And Lamashani getting in the wickets early, I think, is a really good sign for Nepal. I mean, it just does his confidence a world of good. And especially to get rid of Andy Umid. This could be close. Direct hit, I reckon Barrington would have had to look at the umpire quite brazenly. You see, Barrington was quick to get off, but this is the pressure that Nepal provides. This is how good their fielding is and how tight they've been bowling. Haven't given away too many bad balls, even Gulshan Jap. And this is the twice now in a couple of overs where we've seen near run-out chances not being affected due to direct hit. But yeah, you'd reckon that Nepal would be very happy with the way they've started things off and that they want to get rid of this partnership as early as they can, just because you let Barrington and Jones continue. Two very fluent cricketers that can really set up the game.
Yeah, really like watching these two bat, I have to say. Jones is stylish. Barrington is just so effective and gritty and gutsy. I suspect that one of those Nepal Premier League teams is going to be in the market for Scotland's captain. We've seen Herod Erasmus already be picked up. Lots of associates there, isn't it? It's kind of almost, it's not quite an associate Premier League, but there's kind of shades of that. And I think that's going to be a real celebration. They're calling it the Festival of the Himalayas. It starts in 31 days from now. Slashed away over the head of even Depender Singh Irie. Look at the fans up there who thought that maybe Irie was going to produce something outrageous. It belonged in the American Airlines Centre like a basketballer. He almost seemed to hang in the air, but it was well over his head. It's a good stroke for 4.
We'll talk about hang time from Depender Singh Irie. It's not a great delivery from Gulshan Jha, short, wide, and he's the only man on the field, Irie, that could have made that a possible chance, but Richie Barrington taking advantage of a real loose delivery. And this is what he's done. Again, he's battled through, like you said. He's very gutsy. But what he can do is he can take advantage of the bad ones. When it was short, has to be pulled. He did that. Short and wide. Got on to the back foot and just steered it over the top. He's playing good cricket right now, Barrington.
Cut away again, but there's protection out there. Yeah, it is interesting. We spoke about that joint world record that Nepal had with using 9 bowlers. It's the first time they've done it, but 18 other times it's been done in ODI cricket. It's a very rare thing to see. I might consider Arif Sheikh in these conditions. I think from this end, and some fans will say, well, why would you bowl Arif Sheikh? He got hit for 16 in his 1 over in the T20s, 8 in his 1 over in the ODIs. But I just think it's his kind of a day. It's gloomy, it's overcast. Get his brother up to the stumps. It might nibble about a bit. He'll have to bowl more accurately than he has. But I just suspect he could be a good option. No Raj Banshi, so you don't have that control in the team today. 6 from that over. It is 57 for 3. The Nepal fans always coming in with good colour. They're probably a bit chilly down there, I suspect. It's not overly warm. Let's get to some of these messages. Ferrante is asking, is the pitch sticky because of the overcast condition? I'm assuming that the wind will remove any moisture and it will make it better for batting in the second innings.
Yeah, it wouldn't be the wind would be getting rid of some of that moisture. In Texas here in Grand Prairie, we tend to get a lot of dew overnight, especially with the rainfall we had yesterday. Pitch would have been covered, but yeah, there would be a little bit of moisture early. It does dissipate very quickly, and without the sun, the wind would be the main driver of that force. And yeah, we anticipate it to get better with just some of that grass popping off for the second innings.
Cut away, and maybe a hand might save the second as Mala backs up Anil Kumar Sai, who's at backward point. Yeah, you barely think you're in the same country as 2 days ago, would you? It's chilly.
केटाहरू जहिले पनि लाइभ हेरिरहेको छ सेयर
Nothing but glorious sunshine since we've
स्न्याप गरेर
come
को
into
जाउँछ लाइभ
Texas.
जहिले नेपालको
What
म्याच
was that, about 10 days ago for the... Actually more, 2 weeks ago now for the T20s.
एसडी गरिहाल्छु हेर बास एसडी नै छ मालूम नहीं है किसी को नहीं तो इतना वाचिंग आता है ना लो
Who else would you expect with the ball? At some point, maybe that they'll wait for someone like a left-hander, Mark Watt, to get in for Depinder Singh.
Yeah, you reckon he would come in very late in the innings? I would have thought, and I'm with you, that Arif Sheikh would have been the next pacer amongst the bunch, not Gulshan Jah, because this is the kind of situation that would suit him, and especially with two members who are just getting new to the middle. I thought once Lamashane took a wicket, it would have been right on time to bring in an Arif Sheikh who can just get a little nip around, and there's Monty Desai on the screen. Trying to keep warm, I reckon, with some of that wind coming in, and again, he's got a lot on his plate here, trying to get his side back into their winning ways.
I admire Monty Desai hugely. He's a humble man. He is... I think the impact he's had on this team since he's come in, well, he's rightly been idolised across Nepal for it. You see him there, barefoot, very humble. He does his yoga in the morning. He always gets some exercises in during the match. There's the googly. Oh, now, if there's no bat involved, on the back foot, this is so close. We don't have the stump mics in play, so I'm not sure whether there was bat involved. Maybe the replay will tell us. Ended this the 18th at 60 for 3. Could this have been the 4th wicket?
It looked very close on live viewing. Again, the big question is their bat, because he's come across his stumps. The googly hasn't picked it. Yeah, there is. Little bit of bat. That's all the difference. Really well done. Really well judged. We've talked about the umpiring being very good. But how good was that delivery there? I know you as a leggy would have a soft spot for a googly that snuck back through.
Well, I'll tell you something. That is a great decision from Vijaya Mallela. Outstanding piece of umpiring, because if it hasn't hit that inside edge, that is salmon trout, which means out. You ever heard of Cockney rhyming slang? Probably you're too young to even know what that means.
You're speaking a foreign language.
Yeah, it's a really weird thing. It's something in England. I don't know why. It goes around some of the cricket clubs in Ireland as well. You get one more piece of evidence of the inside edge. Yeah, this would have been very much without the inside edge. Salmon trout. So Cockney rhyming slang, it's originated in England. You're in essence, you translate it from something that rhymes with the thing that you're trying to say. And I don't know how you decode it. It was like... and things like, so... Oh, you've got to answer your dog and bone, which is your phone.
Phone. Okay, yeah.
It's really silly, actually, to be honest. But yeah, there's one that we used to always go around the cricket grounds. I played a couple of seasons at the Hampshire County Cricket Club in England. I was on their academy and played some second 11 games and stuff when I was younger as a leg spinner. And you would get, because you've so much time, you spend so much time, particularly in those county second 11 games. You used to play 3-day matches, so there's just so much time sitting around talking nonsense with your teammates. I was there with Chris Tremlett and James Tomlinson, these kind of guys. And they would teach me Cockney rhyming slang. And yeah, salmon trout was the one when you were appealing for one of the umpires. How's he not giving that, mate? That's salmon trout. I had no idea as a young Irish kid, one of the few Irish kids over at English County Cricket. It's the likes of Ryan Eagleson and Ed Joyce that started to blaze the trail for us. That's a good diving stop. Really fine effort by Kushal Bertel. He dropped a tough catch the other day, didn't he? If that had been held, Nepal might have won that game.
Again, speaks to standards that Nepal hold themselves to in the field. You can see it. And he's probably saved a couple of runs, if not 4. That was going very, very quickly. It's a sharp dive out to his right. The thing for me is that he's disappointed he didn't get it cleanly to pick up and throw. Again, it's the standards in which Monty Desai, this entire Nepal side, hold themselves to in the field. that set them apart amongst the rest. Why it's so surprising to see them ever miss field for delivery to get through, which it can only be described as a wall in the inner ring.
Yeah, so maybe if you're watching on and you've got your favourite examples of Cockney rhyming slang, particularly if there's some cricket relevance to them, message those. Use the hashtag CWCL2 at Cricket Badge directly. I'm trying to think of other one. I think there's a little graph of like the most famous ones that I might be able to pull up for you here, Aman. That will hopefully you kind of get the concept.
Yes,
yeah?
I understand. But why is it 2 words versus just the 1 word?
I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah.
It just adds to the creativity factor, I reckon.
Yeah, and some of them don't really make a huge amount of sense. Yeah, and some of them are really, and it's not just, it's always more than one word, it is. I suppose that helps the, your sausage and mash, your cash.
I saw Uncle Bert for shirt. That's quite brilliant. That one's. I think that might be the most creative of the bunch.
I've never. There's a cricket one. I've never heard that one before. Oh, you've got a bit of a Darren Goff, mate. A cough. You've never heard of this before today?
No,
oh, you've got
this
a
is
bit
the
of
first
a Darren
time.
Goff,
100%.
mate. Yeah, You've never heard of this before today?
No,
you've got
this
a
is
bit
the
of a
first
Darren
time.
Goff,
100%.
mate, for 3. Yeah, mince pies. That's definitely one I've heard before.
I've heard that. Okay,
Pies.
yeah, I've heard that
She's
one.
got beautiful. You've never heard of this before today?
No,
You've got
this
a
is the
bit of
first
a
time.
Darren Goff. I don't know. It's ridiculous. It's probably one of those things that mince originated pies. That's somewhere definitely one I've heard before.
I've heard that. Okay.
Spread out there. Whistle and flute. That's a very famous one. God, he's got a great whistle and flute. That lad is suit.
There you go. That one I understand. It's almost the classiness of a whistle.
Yeah.
I can get that one. I'm still not over Uncle Bert and shirt. That's don't know how they've come up with that one.
Yeah, so Cockney it's in the East End of London, and when did it begin? Mid-19th century. It was a code by which either criminals confused the police or salesmen compared notes with each other beyond the understanding of their customers. There you go.
There you go. Sales tactic. See, now I understand it. There you go. That makes sense.
That is fascinating.
So how much did Uncle Bert go for? You're like, who sold Uncle Bert?
That is one I used to hear around. My first season was in Hampshire, Northlands Road, which is the old ground, the original ground. My second season was at the Rose Bowl, the new ground, which you'd know well from the internationals. We used to hear that from the slips when the batter kept playing it missing. Right, see if you can guess it without looking. You'd say, "Oh, this batter, he hasn't a Scooby-Doo."
Hasn't a clue.
Hasn't a clue.
There you go.
You see, so they kind of make sense.
They do.
Arnie shake into the attack, and this is a move that I actually thought would be a good one. I'm not sure they brought him on from this end. I thought he should have bowled from the pavilion end with the ball just shaping away, so Sandy Plamachani's overs will be held back. I'm sure they would have said that about me when I was batting. Oh, this Lenny, this Irishman hasn't a Scooby-Doo. I wouldn't have known what they meant. Was it? So that sledge wouldn't have worked. It's explained to you, I think, during the T20s how my journey with Monty Desai's come full circle, having done my level 3 coaching course with him in Scotland. A relationship has gone full circle with too as well is Steve Snell. I played with him in Hampshire down in the Ventnor Cricket Club. We're actually on the Isle of Wight, our cricket club that I got allocated out to. He went on to play with Hampshire and indeed Somerset, maybe Gloucester, where he was also then became academy coach and then director of cricket. He's now the Scottish director of cricket for Cricket Scotland. He's moved up there, doing a really good job, and he's just messaged me, "Lenny, you need to check your mince pies, mate." Your eyes. So yeah, good old Cockney rhymes. I'm glad I've introduced that to you.
No, this is
it's madness, really.
I might be saying it to some of my American friends just from now.
There you go.
My
Yeah, good
Cockney
old
rhymes.
Cockney rhymes. I'm glad I've introduced that to you.
No,
It's
this is
it's mad. He's just kind of nipping it about. Can Karen KC cut off the second? He will. So we're into the 20th. Scotland only going at 3 and over here. Let's get to some of these other questions. Oh yeah, Sean McPartland messaging on. What about a Michelle? Do you know what a Michelle means?
Michelle. No, is it cricket related?
Cricket related. A Michelle Pfeiffer. fiver.
there you go. Yeah.
He's on a Michelle, mate.
Yeah,
So when you got
okay.
4 down, he's on a Michelle.
I was
now.
thinking something that rhymed, but that was great.
I'm not sure if that's definitely Cockney rhyming slang, but certainly in the vicinity. Shane, also following up on the previous topic, are there too many T20 leagues now? Would it be better if there was windows for each format? I think one of the problems with that, Shane, is getting the consensus from all of the different people who run the game, and it's not just the individual nations' boards, and there's obviously plenty of those, it's the ICC themselves, but then within each of the countries, a lot of these leagues can be privately funded or privately owned, certainly the teams anyway. So difficult to control, whilst in theory probably a good idea. Will we move towards a position where there's a mandated window for test cricket to try and keep the prestige and the pinnacle nature of that? That's possible, but I think outside of that might be tough.
Yeah, I don't, just because of, again, you're playing in every hemisphere of the world, every time zone. There's so many different seasons you have to come into play with, and 20th over goes 64 for 3. Yeah, I think the test cricket window makes sense because you can see that there's a real effort to keep the prestige there with the test championship that's come into play over the last couple of years, and then just trying to make sure that you get the very best cricketers in the world continuing to play red ball cricket. It's a very important thing. We all still love red ball cricket, so I think that's the window you can carve. The T20s in particular, just typically you see so many leagues roughly around the same time, right? You have maybe a month separating MLC and CPL that could honestly overlap at certain times if you really needed it to.
It's almost like
the seasons.
It's almost like there's a couple of different windows, isn't there? It's kind of a jam-packed summer when they can't play in the subcontinent because of the monsoons. So you've got your kind of CPL, MLC, 100 in England, all sort of jostling, GT20 up in Canada, all sort of jostling for their own little space. And then kind of outside of the monsoons, you've got your kind of January, February, March, BPL, PSL.
The Big Bash.
Can't remember. I think the Lanka Premier League's around then. Some point as well. Then you've got your Big Bash at the same time, your SA20, because that's their summer down in South Africa and Australia. They're going to dash a quick single here. I think it's well placed because it's miles in front of Depender Singhari. Just back to the red ball cricket. Good question coming in here from Dari on Twitter. He says, at Cricket Badge, we know associate teams don't have the right to play test cricket, but do you think teams like Nepal, Netherlands, Scotland, Namibia should start playing 3 or 4 day cricket to try and improve themselves and compete against the top teams in ODIs and T20s? Yes, in theory. The sad thing is everything in the modern games comes down to the financials. The associates don't get nearly as much money as I think they deserve, given how well they perform. So they have to use that limited resource that they have wisely. And as a consequence, the ICC Intercontinental Cup, which was the first-class 4-day cup played out amongst the leading associates, has gone by the wayside as a consequence of both kind of a lack of will from those involved in the ICC to spend the amount of money that was needed on it, and also COVID coming at the wrong time. It's just never got back up. Most countries, I think, particularly Nepal and indeed Scotland in particular, have said that they would love to do it if they could. Again, it just comes down to that squeeze calendar. They're playing 36 ODIs every 2.5 years now, with T20s stapled onto almost every tour. That in the previous times, in the 2010s when the I Cup was on, the 2000s, they didn't have that scale of games. So I just don't know where you fit it in the calendar. In principle, yes, but from a cost perspective, because it's obviously not going to be a money maker, you're not going to get the fans in that you would need for it to be equitable. So in principle, yes, but will it happen? I'm not sure.
Yeah, no, I think you're absolutely right. Again, it's how far can you stretch the dollars that you're given, and with the scale of games that you're playing. And I think the big thing that's come into associate cricket is that every game has now started to add context in terms of how they qualify for matches against full member nations in the World Cup. And I think you want to continue down that trend. You want them to be able to have those events. And
the reality is, Aman, to build on that, if you look at the white ball cycles for these nations now, the 50 over, the premier competition in the world, is once every 4 years. And the thing I love is the T20 World Cup is back to once every 2 years, and more importantly, it's an open draw 20-team competition. Who knows, that might go to 24 in the next cycle in years to come. So with 3 World Cups in every 4 years and 14 teams now at the 50 over World Cup, particularly these two sides we're watching here, Scotland and Nepal, have realistic ambitions of being at every one of those 3 World Cups every 4 years.
Exactly.
So that has to be the focus.
Right, and again, you want to give your resources to where there's context, where there's opportunities to expand your market as well. You're going to get the most eyeballs at those